Have you ever had your best ideas while staring out a window, taking a shower, or lying in bed just before sleep? If so, you've experienced what Carl Jung called the inward turn. And you're not alone. Einstein discovered relativity during daydreaming sessions. J.K. Rowling conceived Harry Potter during a delayed train journey. Darwin's theory of evolution crystallized during his daily thinking walks. But here's what's fascinating. In our hyper-connected world, we're told that creativity comes from networking, brainstorming sessions, and constant collaboration. We're made to feel guilty about those moments of quiet reflection, as if solitude equals laziness. Yet Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who gave us concepts like the collective unconscious and personality types, discovered something revolutionary about how our most creative minds actually work. What if everything you've been told about peak performance is backwards? What if the greatest creative breakthroughs don't come from doing more, but from learning to be still? Jung spent decades studying the minds of history's most innovative thinkers, and what he found will challenge everything you think you know about creativity, productivity, and your own untapped potential. Jung's revolutionary understanding of introversion. Jung didn't see introversion as social awkwardness or shyness. In his psychological framework, introversion represents a fundamental orientation toward the inner world of thoughts, feelings, and imagination. For Jung, the introvert's energy flows naturally inward, creating the ideal conditions for what he termed active imagination, the conscious engagement with unconscious content. Jung observed that introverted individuals possess a natural capacity for sustained inner focus that extroverts often lack. This isn't a limitation. It's a specialized form of consciousness that allows for deeper exploration of ideas, symbols, and creative possibilities. The introvert's tendency to process experiences internally before expressing them externally creates what Jung called psychic space, room for ideas to develop and mature. Consider Jung's own creative process. His most revolutionary concepts, the collective unconscious, archetypes, psychological types, emerged during periods of intense inner exploration. Jung would spend hours in his study at Kusnacht, engaging with his own unconscious through dream analysis, active imagination, and what he called confrontation with the unconscious. This inward focus wasn't escapism. It was rigorous psychological research. Jung understood that creativity requires what he termed solitude of the soul, not mere physical isolation, but a quality of inner receptiveness that allows unconscious content to surface into consciousness. This process cannot be rushed or forced. It requires the patient cultivation of inner attention. In Jung's model, the unconscious mind constantly produces what he called autonomous content, images, ideas, and insights that arise spontaneously. The creative individual learns to establish a dialogue with this unconscious material, neither dismissing it as mere fantasy nor accepting it uncritically. This dialogue requires the kind of sustained inner focus that introversion naturally provides. Jung noted that many of his most creative patients were individuals who had learned to value their inner experiences as much as their external achievements. They understood that periods of apparent inactivity, what others might dismiss as daydreaming or laziness, were actually periods of intense psychological work. During these times, the mind processes experiences, makes new connections, and generates novel solutions to complex problems. The physicist Wolfgang Pauli, who worked closely with Jung on the relationship between physics and psychology, exemplified this principle. Pauli's colleagues often found him staring into space for hours, seemingly lost in thought. Yet during these periods of intense inner focus, Pauli was developing insights that would revolutionize quantum mechanics. His Nobel Prize-winning work on the exclusion principle emerged not from frantic experimentation, but from deep contemplation of the nature of reality. Perhaps Jung's most practical contribution to understanding creativity is his concept of active imagination, a conscious technique for engaging with unconscious content. Unlike passive daydreaming, active imagination requires focused attention and conscious participation in the flow of unconscious images and ideas. Jung developed this technique during his own creative crisis following his break with Freud. Faced with a period of psychological upheaval, Jung began deliberately engaging with his dreams, fantasies, and spontaneous images. Rather than analyzing these experiences intellectually, he learned to participate in them imaginatively, allowing them to unfold while maintaining conscious awareness. This process requires what Jung called holding the tension between conscious control and unconscious spontaneity. The individual neither forces the creative process nor abandons themselves to it completely. Instead, they maintain a state of active receptivity, allowing new ideas to emerge while remaining consciously engaged with the process. Jung observed that this technique was particularly effective for introverted individuals, whose natural inclination toward inner focus provided the necessary foundation for sustained imaginative work. Extroverts, while capable of active imagination, often struggled with the sustained inner attention the process requires. The rhythm of creative introversion. Jung recognized that creativity follows natural rhythms that cannot be artificially imposed. Just as the unconscious operates according to its own temporal logic, the creative process requires alternation between periods of intense inner work and phases of integration and expression. Jung's concept of psychological types includes an understanding that introverted individuals naturally operate according to different rhythms than their extroverted counterparts. While extroverts tend to process experiences through external interaction, introverts require time for internal processing. This isn't inefficiency, it's a necessary part of how introverted minds achieve depth and originality. In Jung's clinical observations, he noticed that creative individuals who honored their natural rhythms, alternating between periods of intense inner work and phases of external expression, maintained both their creative capacity and psychological well-being over time. Those who forced themselves to work according to externally imposed schedules often experienced creative blocks and psychological exhaustion. The composer Johannes Brahms exemplified this natural rhythm. Brahms would spend months in apparent inactivity, taking long walks, reading, and engaging in quiet contemplation. His friends and critics often questioned these periods of seeming idleness. Yet Brahms understood that his most profound musical insights emerged during these times of inner receptiveness. His symphonies and concertos were essentially complete in his imagination before he began the process of notation and refinement. Jung's psychological framework includes the concept of the shadow, those aspects of personality that remain unconscious and potentially problematic. For creative introverts, the shadow often manifests as excessive withdrawal from the world, creative perfectionism, or the use of introversion as an excuse for avoiding necessary external engagement. Jung emphasized that healthy introversion requires balance. The creative individual must learn to navigate between inner exploration and outer expression, between solitude and community, between receptivity and action. When introversion becomes pathological withdrawal, it ceases to serve creativity and becomes a limitation. Jung also observed that creative introverts often struggle with what he called inferior extroversion, the tendency to devalue or poorly develop their capacity for external engagement. This imbalance can lead to difficulty sharing creative work, collaborating with others, or translating inner insights into forms that can benefit the broader community. The key, according to Jung, lies in what he termed conscious introversion, the deliberate cultivation of inner awareness while maintaining connection to the outer world. This requires ongoing attention to both the gifts and limitations of the introverted orientation. Based on Jung's insights, several practical approaches can help individuals harness the creative potential of introversion. Structured solitude. Create regular periods of uninterrupted inner focus, free from external stimulation or demands. This isn't mere relaxation, but active engagement with your inner creative process. Dream work. Jung believed dreams provide direct access to unconscious creative material. Keeping a dream journal and learning to work with dream imagery can unlock new creative possibilities. Active imagination practice. Develop the capacity to engage consciously with spontaneous images, ideas, and fantasies. This requires practice and patience, but can become a powerful tool for creative insight. Honoring natural rhythms. Learn to recognize and respect your natural cycles of creative energy. Work with your biological and psychological rhythms rather than against them. Integrating shadow elements. Acknowledge and work with the challenging aspects of introversion, including the tendency toward excessive withdrawal or perfectionism. Jung's understanding of creativity and introversion offers a profound alternative to contemporary productivity culture. In a world that often values speed, external validation, and constant activity, Jung's insights remind us that the deepest creative insights often emerge from patience, inner attention, and the courage to engage with our unconscious depths. This doesn't mean that all creative individuals are introverts, or that extroverts cannot access profound creativity. Rather, Jung's work suggests that the capacity for sustained inner focus, what he associated with introversion, represents an essential component of the creative process that our culture often undervalues. For those who naturally tend toward introversion, Jung's insights provide both validation and guidance. Your inclination toward solitude, inner focus, and deep processing isn't a limitation to overcome, but a strength to cultivate. The challenge lies in learning to honor these natural tendencies while developing the capacity to share your insights with the world. Conclusion: the inward path to innovation. Carl Jung's exploration of creativity and introversion reveals a profound truth. The most transformative innovations often emerge not from external stimulation, but from the courage to turn inward and engage with the depths of our own consciousness. In our age of constant connectivity and external pressure, Jung's insights offer a different path, one that honors the natural rhythms of the creative mind and recognizes the essential role of introversion in accessing our deepest creative potential. The creative introvert, in Jung's understanding, serves as a bridge between the unconscious and conscious realms, translating inner insights into forms that can benefit humanity. This is neither laziness nor social avoidance, but a specialized form of psychological work that requires both courage and discipline. As we navigate an increasingly complex world, Jung's insights about creativity and introversion become more relevant than ever. They remind us that innovation doesn't always emerge from collaboration and external stimulation. Sometimes the most profound breakthroughs come from the quiet courage to turn inward, engage with our unconscious depths, and trust in the creative wisdom that emerges from the inner journey.